Where did Call of Duty go wrong with Warzone? Call of Duty is the biggest first-person shooter franchise in history, but you don't need me to tell you that. The franchise has released yearly entries since the mid-2000s, and its attempts to innovate have been very hit or miss. One of their biggest successes was the release of Warzone, a free-to-play battle royale game that took the world by storm in 2020. Its release came during the COVID-19 pandemic and was the perfect escape for many looking for that new multiplayer game to play with their friends while in lockdown. While not the first to enter the battle royale genre, Warzone quickly grew to rival that of Fortnite and other popular battle royales at the time. Though now in 2023, Warzone has taken a dive in its player base, while Fortnite has remained strong. But why is that? There are many factors behind the downfall of Warzone, and much of it is to do with the poor communication between the developers and players. Where Fortnite shines and keeps up its consistent player base is through its updates. While not all fantastic updates, the developers usually consider many criticisms to create a fun and engaging gameplay experience for its players. For example, they introduced no build mode, which brought a brand new set of fans to the game. For Warzone, however, the updates are few and far between, and the response to them is usually negative. Players expected the level of updates and events that Fortnite had, with changing maps or points of interest and fun game modes. While they did add a few points of interest and the occasional event or game mode, they were hardly good enough to justify such a long wait, and led to many players getting bored of the current state of the game. This was happening within the first year of Warzone and led to many calling for a new map entirely to replace Verdansk. After a long wait, fans finally got that wish with Caldera, and it was not met with high praise. Many felt the map was too open, among a myriad of other issues that led to many calling for the return of Verdansk. Again, the updates for this map were lackluster and pushed even more people away. With more and more people crying for change, there were many options for the developers to take in order to improve both relations with their fans and the game itself. They could have rotated the maps around, similar to how Apex Legends changes its map after every season. While it doesn't solve the issue of a lack of updates to the current map, it would have appeased fans looking for that Verdansk nostalgia that they were missing and would have been a really easy fix. The developers continue to release lackluster events and changes to Caldera before announcing Warzone 2, all but publicly stating that Warzone 1 would be pretty much abandoned at the end of the year. Now, this wasn't initially a negative. A new Warzone game with a brand new map developed with the feedback from the fans could have been a real positive change. And then Warzone 2 was released. What we got was a completely gutted and altered version of Warzone 1, which seemed to be stripped of all of the quality of life changes that they pushed later on in the Warzone lifecycle and movement that fans had come to love. On top of that, a map that really fell short of expectations in Al Mazrah. While not the worst map in the world, it wasn't that great, and seemingly the developers learned nothing from the past, and Warzone was left to die in both formats. Warzone 1 was languishing with minimal updates and a low player count, while Warzone 2 alienated those that loved the first game. Now, let's discuss the individual updates over the course of Warzone and Warzone 2. Players quickly found the meta for which weapons were the best to use each season. Updates each season would buff weaker guns and nerf stronger guns as a way to switch things up and keep a balance. While this kept the game fresh initially, there were points in Warzone's lifecycle where certain guns were nowhere near viable enough to use, and play was dominated by a single gun for weeks or months at a time. One of the biggest controversies included the DMR, which showcased the issue when you make only one weapon viable. While this was eventually rectified, the dev team took way too long to fix what was a fundamental issue and was one of the early examples of poor communication between devs and fans. especially the fans that were crying out for these changes to take place. With these nerfs and buffs, there was a clear push to sell bundles on stores. That's all it was. The life cycle of a gun in the game would usually involve a buff that would force people to buy the weapon in the online store so that they could get all of the best attachments early before the gun was eventually nerfed and made useless in the next update. This is a clear example of greed coming from the developers who would rather not focus on the quality of the game, but how many store bundles they could sell each update. Now let's get back to Warzone 2. Recent updates have seen the release of new maps in the form of Vondel and Ashika Island. The maps have been met with a mixed reception, with many still frustrated with certain gameplay changes that have come along with them. A significant change in how sniping works in Warzone was the last straw for many, eliminating one-shot kill headshots. Sniping is a huge part of the Call of Duty community, something I used to take part in back in the day, and was a major reason why many enjoyed early Warzone, as the map allowed for some great sniper battles, similar to how Battlefield plays out. The change felt unnecessary and not only annoyed many professional players, but was negatively received by the general audience for the game. So with all these details, what can we take away from this? The most important thing is that Call of Duty as a whole is going through many issues, and while this video is Warzone focused mainly, we would be amiss to not mention the multiplayer community, which has seen a decline since Modern Warfare 2's release. Something that's been brought up by many content creators who focus on Call of Duty games, such as FaZe Jev. So is it too late for Warzone to make a comeback and save itself from its already dwindling player base? Let us know what you think in the comments and tell us what changes you would make to bring Warzone back to its former glory or to find newfound glory. Make sure you like and subscribe, it really helps us out, and let us know what else you'd like us to talk about in the comments down below.